Okay. Morning, everyone. Hello, hello, Ricky. How are you, my friend? Give me a second, guys. I'm just setting up my computer because it is giving me some issues over here. Gee, Riches. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. Wow. Lots of love coming through already. Bear with me for a second, everyone. Just whilst I set this up. And recap session. Ooh, my friends. Now, we need so in the morning. Kim, good morning. How are you? What's up? What's up, people? I'm trying not to be too loud because there's a whole bunch of little people sleeping upstairs. My brother and his kids. Alright, that's can you guys hear me okay? Alright, hope you guys can hear me fine. Give me a 1 if you can hear me fine, thank you. Let's get this keyboard out of the way. Oh, Hans, Ricky, everyone, slightly low audio. Okay, let me put the headphone on. I'll put the mic on this and hopefully you can hear me better. I'm trying not to be too loud because it's still early in the morning and there's kids sleeping. Hello, Quinn, how are you? Thank you. Morning. Which is the difference? It's a bit louder. Okay, bear with me. I'll fix that in a moment. Let's have a look at this. Okay, technology. There we go. Push this back slightly. Okay, how about now? Can you guys hear me okay? Is this better? Awesome, awesome, fantastic. All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining me at the Peripreneurs, and thank you, Peripreneurs, for giving me the opportunity to share some insight into me, my background, who am I, where I'm from, all that sort of stuff. So, share the feed, thank you. Yeah, heart it up, share it, invite your followers, appreciate it, thank you all. And, hopefully we'll have an interesting session today, and not that it's not always, it always is interesting, and I always enjoy watching everybody's stories, so thank you for the opportunity for me to share mine today. Alright, now what I will do for this session, I'm not going to take any questions during the session, but towards the end of it I'll allow some time so that if you have any questions I'll answer it. Where do we begin? It's always difficult when you start talking about yourself, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Azeez. I live in Sydney, I work in Sydney, and I'm a content marketer at the moment, and I've been a content marketer for quite a long time. I used to run an agency, but prior to that, I was living overseas in a lot of different countries. Now, in a way, I have probably been one of the most fortunate people probably in the world. I consider myself very lucky and very fortunate for a number of reasons. I hope I'll talk about a number of these reasons today. And I was born in Iraq, in north of Iraq, in a region called Kurdistan. So part of when you were a kid, you're growing up. My dad was a political activist and working against Saddam at the time, and he was one of the very early founding members of one of the major political party who later the head of the party became the president of Iraq after post-Saddam. Now, because of that, living in a country like that, in a place like that, there are some challenges associated with life in a war zone. So we grew up through multiple different wars. My earliest memory as a child, I remember, is being about us being bombed, being gassed, being bombed, being shot at, all sorts of things. So I'm going to briefly talk about that and move forward through the time to my life here in Australia in the last 18 years that I've been here, 18, 19 years I've been here. Now, in life for us was very difficult at the beginning when we were living in the 80s, living in Kurdistan in the mountains. We're basically hiding out in the mountains, and every single day we get bombed, we get shot at, aircrafts will come, drop bombs, take off, kill a few people, and at night time we just get bombed by artillery, so you pretty much could not have a life. That was the objective, terrorize the crap out of the people. That's what the government wanted to do. I remember multiple nights we'll be basically walking up in the middle of the night when there would be like at least half a meter to a meter of snow. You know, and my mum was like, "Yep, we gotta go sleep in the bunker in the freezing cold." So we basically get up and go hide in the bunker with no heating or cooling or doors or anything. It's a big bunker underground. It wasn't even a bunker; it was just literally a hole in the mountain, and we would be hiding in there. It was like a cave, man-made cave. We were hiding and then sleeping in there in winter. And then that went on for a number of years. And then in 1988, we got gassed. We got gassed by Saddam, and there was about 16 or 18 aircrafts came and dropped bombs everywhere. This time, the explosions were very different to every other time. So what happened was, that time, when the bombs go off, they didn't explode. They were like more of a puff, more of a pop than anything else. So then my dad wasn't home at the time, and he was out going to the shops. He ran back, and with his face covered in traditional Kurdish clothing. We wear what's called a pishden, which is a piece of clothing that they wear around their waist. It is horrible, but it is sad. It is life, but I'm very fortunate to be here. It gets worse. It's not that bad, and at the moment it's still good. We just know what's going to happen. My dad gets home and he yells out from the distance, "Everybody get out now, everybody out." And as we all get out, he's tearing the clothing on his that he was wearing, the pishden, into pieces, and gives it to my mum, run it underwater. Kids, put it on your mouth, on your face, walk up the mountain. It's a gas. And as soon as you mention gas, my mum just literally, she nearly collapsed. She's like, "Oh my God, what are we all going to die today?" And at the time, I came from a big family, so there was 5 kids, all under the age of 9. So, 8.5-year-old, 7.5-year-old. I was about 6 at the time, and I've got 2 younger siblings, 2 or 3, 4 years younger than me. So you've got a family of 7 kids, 5 boys, with mum and dad, and the whole town sort of just being gassed by 16 aircrafts dropping bombs everywhere. And my dad sort of tearing everything and sort of pushed down apart, putting it together, putting underwater so we can put it on our face and get up the mountain so we don't suffocate because of the effect of the gas. So we get up to the top, and my dad's like, "Okay, we need to light a fire," because the fire thins out the air and helps with the gas. So as soon as we started the fire, because you can see the rest of the town's also up on the mountain, and you see these hot spots everywhere on the mountain becomes a target for the artillery. So the artillery starts firing, and that was gas again. So we couldn't stay there because we'd just been bombed again. Had to get out of there. Well, didn't get out of there. My dad's like, "Turn out the fire." We turned out all the fires and stuff, and then about 5 minutes later, a helicopter comes in and starts gassing. So you've got, first was aircraft that gassed us, second was artillery that also gassed us, different weapon system, and the third one was a helicopter just circling the mountain and just gassing everyone. Just you could hear the rotor spinning, and you could hear the secondary noise that's just pumping something into the atmosphere, into the air all around the mountain. At that point, we had to escape. We had to get out of there. So we went down the mountain, and as you go down to the bottom of the mountain, there is people. There's just people laying down on the ground. People dying, people dead, people crying, kids screaming, elderly people, animals dead, everything. So everything is just on the ground everywhere. It is literally horrific. And so what happened was, so people were just sort of suffering a lot down the bottom, and we had to go through that, climb up the mountain, go up on the other side. And when we got to the top, there was a cave. We had to go inside. We went inside the cave, and so we went inside the cave. We were hiding there for about 3 days. So in 2 days we were hiding in there, and the next morning we could see a military convoy coming through. So the military convoy coming through the highway from the distance, you could just see hundreds of vehicles, of trucks, tanks, armored personnel carriers, you name it, was basically rolling in, and it was a major military operation by the Iraqi government. So they came through, went through the towns, and so what happened was, then they went through the towns. Anyone who had survived was captured, and we didn't know what happened to the survivors. Years later, we found out that most of the survivors who were captured, if they didn't die shortly after due to the effects of the gas, and they actually survived, they were all buried alive in mass graves. So they were literally tasered in the back of the head, knocked them unconscious, knocked to the ground or hit in the back of the head, and put them in mass graves and just covered them in dirt. And that's what happened to the rest of them. We know that because one guy managed to escape. He actually was still half unconscious, and he ran away. As he ran away, he went onto a highway where he waved down a vehicle, and the vehicle that stopped was a senior Iraqi military officer who just told him, "Get in the car, be quiet, let's move out of here." And he actually took him out of there. The guy survived. That's how he survived. He got out. He managed to get out there, and he reported what happened. So from there, we went back to we were in the mountains. I think it was the third night we were there. We came down the mountain with my family, my dad, and everybody else. And there was one tractor left in town that the guy had come back to pick up his personal belongings and his family and stuff and try and escape. By that stage, I'm not talking about dozens of villages in our area. There was no one left. There was hardly anyone left there. Okay, it was all ghost town pretty much. And we got in the tractor, and we got into the tractor, and we basically, my dad's like, take my family back to the city, and by that he couldn't come with us. So at that point, my dad turned back around to go back, because he was an activist, he couldn't come back. So we went to the city, but we were in hiding. We couldn't go anywhere. So the military is literally going door to door, knocking on people's doors, trying to find anyone who's actually survived, because by that stage, the whole country knew what's going on. But the rest of the world knew about it, but turned a blind eye. So we didn't know where my dad was, and he went missing for about 6 months. My mum went back looking for it, and that's a whole new story what happened there, which if I talk about it, we're going to be here all day. So then my mum came back, found out my dad was in Iran because he was badly injured due to the effects of the gas, and his friends had to get him out of there, take him to Iran for treatment. So we went back into the mountains, and we were basically sitting there waiting for my dad. And when my dad came back, it was me and two of my older siblings were playing outside. It was in Canada. So then we were playing outside. When I saw my dad, I didn't recognize him. And there's this guy riding his horse and walking directly towards us, and with a big smile. And then I realized, oh, it's Dad, because I hadn't seen him in over 6 months. He looked so different. He looked so skinny. He had a beard, and that's that was still like in '88 and '89. And then after that, we went to Iran, and we had to go through the borders. And during that, keeping in mind that was during the Iraq-Iran war as well. So we are crossing borders from Iraq to Iran during an Iraq-Iran war, and there's a whole bunch of shit that went wrong that I'm not going to even get into here because it's just too much. So then after that, we were in Iran, living there for a while, and life in Iran was crap. I love the people, hate the government. The Iranian government are just a bunch of douchebags. They have no humanity in them towards anyone, including their own people. Wonderful people. I love the food, I love the culture, I love the language, I love the people, I love the country itself, but I hate the government. It is one of the worst places in the world to live in. And I will say that any day of the week. It's just they just don't know how to treat people. So we were there for a number of years, and we struggled because there was no support, there was no UN. The UN officials were corrupt, so as a refugee, you're moving from one country, running away from war zone to another, there's nothing there. So we lived there for a number of years. I went to school there. I started my schooling from year 1 to year 4. And then there was the Gulf War in '91. My dad went back for the war during the Gulf War. The Gulf War went back, and my mum went back because we had some family and stuff there, and there were some horrible things happening again, which is a whole different side of I don't want to even get into here. And we were basically a bunch of kids with one of my cousins. We were just living there for about 6 months. Then my parents came back. After that, the entire country basically. There's a lot more that I've survived, Kim. And the entire country basically came to Iran, and there was population crisis everywhere, just massive influx of refugees all over from Iraq coming into Iran. So we were living there, and for a while we lived there, and then slowly things settled down. America introduced the no-fly zone over the north of Iraq, or the Kurdistan region, and Saddam's army had to fall back, and the Gulf War had started. It was post-Gulf War, and so I'm 34. So then after that we went back to Iraq. We went back sort of to Kurdistan to live there, to try and make a life there, and that was in 91 or 92. But I went back before my parents with my dad's uncle, one of my dad's uncles and his kids. So I went back there. First I started school, and then a few months later my parents came back as well, and we all lived there. When we were living there was a bit of a crisis between the two major political parties. They went into some sort of like a civil war, and that was going on for a number of years. At that point, my dad's like, I don't want my family to be here. It started when I was about 6. Well, it started since I was born. I was about 10 months I was about 3 months when my dad left the city and went into the mountains. Like I was a baby, literally, I was a newborn when my parents left and started officially working as activists and hiding out in the mountains against the Iraqi regime. So from the age of 3 months, and basically that's when it all started. But the gassing and us running away and not being bombed for like major events that happened in 1988, I was about 6 years old. And then we went to, basically, we're in Iran, we went back. My dad's like, okay, the parties are there's a bit of a civil war going on. And so we went back. So that was we went back to Iran. But that time we went back to Iran, we ended up in a refugee camp for 2.5 years. Prior to that, we were not in a refugee camp. We ended up in a refugee camp. But it was one of the worst experiences of my life, sort of living condition-wise, because there was no living condition. It was literally survival. By that stage, we're talking 90, I think, yeah, it was 95 when we went back to Iran. I was about 14, 15 years old. And then we basically got stuck in a refugee camp, and there's a whole lot of crap that went wrong in between that. Anything that could have gone wrong between us going back to Iran the second time and being in a refugee camp went wrong. But the only thing that went right is we survived. We didn't die, and that's pretty interesting when you consider a family of 9. Because by that stage I had two other siblings, a younger sister and a brother, and so we survived, and we were in the camp. And at that stage, two of my uncles were living in Australia. They were living in Australia, so we started putting our paperwork together to come to Australia. So we put our paperwork together and we accepted to come to Australia, but the Iranian government did absolutely everything they could to make life hell and for us not to come to Australia. What happened there was we spent the last year and a half basically pretty much starving people. That's all it was. The food will get stolen by the UN officials, by the Iranian government, gets sold in the black market. You'll go to the shops, there's just food packages everywhere that's supposed to go to the refugees in the camps. Never made it. And we're living in a refugee camp, and it's right in the mountains where in winter it gets down to minus 15, 20 degrees temperature, and most people don't realize that it gets bloody cold. Yes, it's Iran, it's Iraq, and people think, how could it be? It's just a desert. It's not. There's mountains there, and it gets damn cold. Okay, and so we basically living in a camp. We weren't allowed to get out of the camp, and winter was coming. Winter was definitely there. So we're living in the camp, and we weren't allowed out of the camp within no more than 10 kilometers for work or for anything else. Otherwise, ended up in jail. Prior to that, coming back to Iran, which I'm not going to get into the details, I spent 3 weeks in jail, thanks to with my sort of mum and my brothers and my sister, except for my dad and one of my brothers didn't end up in jail with us. That was a whole different story there. And so 3 weeks in jail there, and we were stuck in this camp with nothing, with no minute detail. So it's sorry, Iraq, so I'm not going to get into minute details. I'm sorry, I missed a lot of comments. We'll talk a little bit later about that stuff. So then we're in this refugee camp. There is no support. There's no food. There's no nothing. And I'm about 14 to 15. So me and my older brothers and one of my younger siblings, we started working in a lot of the farms in the area, and you get paid like $1 a day, and it's nothing. You can't survive on that as a family. It's just like $1 a day, 50 cents, maybe $2 at best, and that's only seasonal. You can only do that for like 3 months in a year. So I started sort of getting trained myself as a baker. So I ended up working in a bakery, but because there was no bakeries in the immediate area, I had to get outside the 10-kilometer zone that we were allowed to. So what I had to do every single day, I'll sneak out in the afternoon, jump on the bus, do a bus ride for about 15, 20 kilometers, get to the, someone say cake, there was no cake, it was just bread, so I'll go sleep in the bakery, wake up at 3 in the morning, start everything by myself, and I'll sleep on the floor in the bakery, wake up, start everything, and in the morning, work till about midday, take some bread home, get paid for the day, and buy some sugar or buy some rice or buy something else that we needed for the next 24 hours. Jump back in the bus, go back to the camp, drop that off, sneak out again. So I did that for quite some time. And then I ended up getting a job in another bakery in a different city, which I had to smuggle into the city, get myself smuggled into the city and live there and work there. Away from the rest of my family, and I'm only about 15, so I lived apart from them for a few months, just to try and earn a bit of money and support them. So once a week, I'll get in the bus, go home, drop off the money, and come back and back to the different city. And keeping in mind, at any point, if I got busted between there's checkpoints at the entrance to every town and exit out of every town is a military checkpoint. You get stopped and asked for an ID. If at any point I get stopped, asked for an ID, I'm illegal. I'm not allowed to be there. I would end up in jail. And the nasty thing that the Iranian government was doing is they will put you in jail. They won't even tell your family. There will be no court hearing. There will be nothing. You will just end up, you go to jail, and you spend a number of days there, and whatever long that may be, and then they will release you. And when we used to work in the farms, we would go through a lot of these checkpoints. They knew we weren't, sometimes we weren't supposed to be there. So you were at the mercy of whoever was at the checkpoint. I don't want to talk about religion. Religion has nothing to do with what my experience is. Nasty people have a lot to do with my experience. And unfortunately, nasty people exist in every religion, every culture, every country, everywhere. And you've got wonderful people everywhere as well. So I do not want to get into that debate. So then what happened was one day we were in the bus. We were coming back from one of the camps, one of the farms, to go back to the camp. We're going back to the camp, and we get stopped at this checkpoint. We get stopped at the checkpoint, and the guy looks at me and goes, "Get down." And I was always the one who attracted the crowds. I don't know why. Maybe I was a cocky little shit when I was a teenager. I just did it. I was just too angry, maybe, or something. I don't know what the story was. So he goes, "Get down." I get down. He's like, "Show me your ID." Thanks, Rax. I appreciate the honesty. And then he asked me for my ID. So I gave him my ID. He looks at it. Keeping in mind, my ID is when I was a little kid. So my ID when I was a kid, and the guy looks at it and goes, "That's not you." I said, "Yes, that's me." He goes, "No, well, why have you not changed it if it's you?" I said, "Because you guys haven't changed my ID. Because had the government changed my ID and updated, that means by law I had the right to live in the city and not be stuck in a refugee camp." Sorry about that phrase. So the guy's like, "No, that's not your ID. Okay, arrest everyone." And we're all in the back of a ute. There's about 40 people standing there like a tin of sardines vertical in the back of a ute. And then we get a military escorted back to their base. When we get we get a military escorted back to the base. And when we get there, they're like, "All right, everybody out." They pull out a firing squad. They pull out about 10 of their soldiers with their rifles standing behind us. Everybody line up, face the wall, as if you're actually firing squad. So you're standing there, and we're talking not adults, we're talking women, we're talking children, we're talking elderly people. Face the wall. And at that point, everybody just stand there with a rifle just for intimidation. Just for the intimidation, they're just kind of pointing their rifles at you while you're facing the wall. One of the commanders walks out. And he goes, "Oh, what's happening here?" And they're like, "Oh, we just detained all these people, all these people that have been working illegally, and that's what's going on." He's like, No, I know these people. They're all the refugees from the camp. It's okay, you can let them go." He goes through everyone, goes, "It's okay, you can let them go." Then he looks at me, my brother, and my eldest brother. The three of us goes, "I don't know him. Put him in the bricks. Put him in the cell." I was like, "Hold on a second. You can't just put us in the cell." I said, "The week that you moved out of the camp as a camp commander was the week my family, we moved in. And if you know everybody else here is actually lives in the camp, why not ask them whether we live in the camp as well?" And I'm only like 15. He looked at me. He didn't say any word. He didn't say a word, and he just went, Do they live in the camp? Yes. Is he telling the truth? Yes. All right, you can go. You know, they held us back. You know, no worries. So they held us back for hours, and then they said, "Yeah, get back in there. Don't went back to the camp." So they would do that. Or another time, I had an experience where we came back from working in the farm, and we got stopped we got stopped at this particular checkpoint, and he goes, "You," and he points at me. I'm like, "Yes," just get off now. And I get off. He grabs me by the back neck, drags me on the ground, hits and smashes me on the ground, and he starts sort of beating the crap out of me. And he goes, "Yesterday you went past here, you swore at us." I said, "No, it wasn't me." He goes, "Yes, it was you." And I got a massive smack for it and a few kicks. And I said, and I was so pissed off. I was angry. If I had enough, I'd probably stab him in the neck. And you know, and I said, "No, it wasn't me." He goes, "Yes, it was you, and you were wearing that exact same red jacket." And I looked at him. I said, "You're a lying son of a bitch." I said, "I wasn't even wearing this jacket yesterday." At that point, I got bit more beating. He gave me a massive kick in the ass, and he goes, "Get back in the bus and don't do it again." And when I got in there, I looked at him and said, "No, I wiped my head like, do what?" And then he goes, "Get out of here, I'll shoot you." So at that point, we got out of there, and I was really angry. So as a teenager, I was very angry because I was very quiet, and I kept everything to myself. So then we spent a number of years, 2.5 years in a refugee camp under extremely horrible circumstances. Then we came to Australia. It's been many close calls, and I'll tell you some of the more future close calls I've had. So then we came to Australia, and I don't speak a word of English. And in my mind, I've always thought to myself, when I always laugh, man, you have no idea how lucky I am. So we best moved to Australia. Yeah, we came to Australia, and we came here, don't speak a word of English. And I used to think to myself for the first 3 months, when I get to Australia, I will do this. When I get to Australia, I will do this. And I was always very smart at school. I was always sort of an A-grade student, never had any problems with it. And, you know, and I'll tell you a little bit about my schooling as well. But I came to Australia, start from scratch, don't speak a word of English. I'm like, all right. First 12 months, I have to learn English. So and we got to Australia in July 97, and it was just, the feeling was unreal. The feeling of, I can do whatever I want and be me and just explore life, you know, and not be worried about what the society, what the government or the society has to dictate for me. That's unbelievable. So most people don't realize how lucky we are in this country, or even in most of the countries in the world. You only realize that once you see or you experience a lot of other places. And, you know, and we were extremely fortunate. So I went to school, and I had a fire in my belly. So basically for me was study, sports, anything I could do. I got involved in every sport. JC, thanks for joining, mate. I got involved in every single sport I could get involved in, and until I discovered what I really loved, what I was passionate about. You know, I got involved in chess competitions, I got involved in debates, I got involved in everything. So remember, I didn't even speak English, so first 12 months was learn the language, then go to high school, study 11, and get involved in sports and everything else. And then by the for year 12, I became the prefect or the school captain. Academically, I was doing better than pretty much most of the students there, and sports, I was doing better than everyone. And I started competing in the nationals under 20 for athletics, for 800 and 1500 meter running. So I started competing, and basically I went to every athletic event and triathlon event, but I was still very quiet. I kept everything to myself, and I would just think, and I would just run. And I used to think, years later, I would think to myself, well, what was I running from? What was I angry about? And I think everything I was ever angry about, I took it out on sports and athletics, on track and field, and I would just do that. But when I was in year 12, I decided to join the army. So I was like, yay! I said to my dad, I said, Dad, I want to join the army. Join the Australian Army. He's like, what? I said, I want to join the Australian Army. He's like, are you sure? I said, yes. And my dad was always like, if you want to do something, go for it. If you want something done, don't wait. Don't wait, you know. And so he's like, okay, well, what's your future plan? I said, I don't know whether I will be able to get into university to get a degree or not. I do not know if I know the language well enough to be able to pass it, but I think I can get into the army. At least I can have a career there. He's like, well, you're lucky because they have reserves and full-time. Why don't you go in as a reservist and do as much as you can there? So I did, went in as a reservist, and I was working as a reservist for a number of years, and made it to university as well. Did end up doing bachelor's degree in computing, and with the army, I did a number of deployments. In 2006, 2007, I was deployed back to Iraq. That was a very interesting experience. Basically, now I am back there a number of years later. The irony. But this time with the Australian Army, and I'm deployed. I was in Nasiriyah in south of Iraq, and I went down to Basra. So then I went back there, and I'm working as a linguist, as a cultural advisor and linguist, with the military. I'm briefing my team, briefing a lot of other senior officers, generals, people who come into the country. That is during the war. That is just 2006, 2007. That is basically the worst. 2005, 6, 7 were pretty much the worst times post 9/11. So I'm right there in the middle of all that, and involved in a lot of interesting work, interesting stuff that I absolutely love. A lot of it I didn't agree with. And then I came back to Australia after that, and I did a number of diplomas too. Did you run into? No, I wasn't allowed to communicate or be involved with anyone that we know. Plus, I'm from way up north in Kurdistan, so most of my family and my parents were back there. My dad was a senior politician back there working. My uncle at the time was the he's a general, he's a 4-star general in Iraq at the moment, and I think he's retired recently. He was the military advisor to the President post-Saddam, which was the party that my dad was a founding member of. And then, no, none of that shit. So then what happened was, I was there for a while, and there was a lot of horrible things happen. Came back to Australia, I was still in the army, did a few more deployments to a few other places, and then came back. I was like, okay, well, by that stage I had got married, I wanted to sort of settle down, and I went back to university to do my master's in web engineering and online. So I thought, like, okay, let's get into this technology stuff. I was always been passionate about tech. So then, then a few years later, I decided to sort of get out of the army and just sort of have a family, and got kids. And at the moment, I've got 2 kids, a boy and a girl. My daughter's 2, my son's 4, and Dylan and Nana. And no worries. So then, when I was sort of in the army, I decided sort of one day I'm sitting there, like I left the army, I'm sort of sitting there trying to work out what I want to do. Thank you. So I was trying to work out what I want to do. So I was like, okay, I finished my university degree. I've pretty much done with the army, and I want to work in the web industry, in the technology sector. This is what I want to do. So I'm sitting there one day. I called 36 agencies in Sydney, web design and development agencies in Sydney, and asked them if I could work for them for free for 3 to 6 months just to get the experience. Every single one of them rejected the my offer. The only reason they did that was because PHP was fairly new, and they said, can you code in PHP? I said, no, I can't, but I can learn it. I can do ASP and other languages. They said, no, we need a PHP developer. Every single one of them rejected my application. I was like, stuff you. I am going to do something about this. I went to my room, and I was like, okay, I've got a computer, I've got a printer, I've got whatever's in my head, and there's a ton of knowledge out there that I can learn. Now, what am I going to do? I wrote down, I still have the little brochure, I packed all my stuff in storage. I was going to show everyone, and that's about a number of years ago now. But at that stage, I left it. I wasn't doing full-time, I was actually a reservist in the army. So I had to change a number of times with my military career. And so then I'm doing army reserves. I'm working sort of, trying to sort of do my master's and trying to find a job to support myself because I was married as well. And they'll get a rejection after rejection after rejection, so started putting together a brochure. Okay, I'm living in this massive apartment complex, and there's about 475 units there. So in there, I printed out a little brochure, and so then went down with the brochure, said PC assist or help or repairs and blah, blah, blah. Okay, I listed a whole bunch of stuff. I listed a whole bunch of stuff that I could do, and put it into mailbox number 1 to 100, because I printed 100 copies and there's 475 mailboxes there. Next day, didn't hear anything. Went down, and there was some of them on the floor, some in the bin. Picked up the brochure, like, oh, man, I need to work, I need to be earning some money. So I went, picked it up, the brochures. I went to 101, 102, 103, fill it up. And then the next morning, I get a phone call from a lady. She goes, I've got a problem with my laptop, and I'm about to give away a secret here. And she's like, can you fix it? I said, oh, of course I can. And I've never touched a laptop in my life. I had no idea how to fix it. I'm like, but I can fix it. So I grabbed the laptop, took it home. I'm sitting there scratching my head going, how am I going to fix this? But I had become a friend with this guy who was working in a computer shop down the road. So I walked up to him. I walked up to the guy and I said, listen, I don't have the money to pay you to fix this for me. I need to be able to fix it. Can you just give me an idea of what it might be that I haven't been able to identify myself? He goes, oh, it might be this, it might be that. You could try this and try that. I'm like, thank you. That's enough starting point. I went back and I fixed it. And I gave back to the lady. I think it was I charged like $70 or $80 for the work. I was like, awesome. I can do this. So I did that, and then 2 days later, she referred me to a friend, which was another bigger job. I had to go change a whole bunch of hardware in one of her PCs, and I did that as well. I was like, all right, I can do this. I don't need to be working for somebody else. So at that point, one of my cousins, he was a salesperson for one of the large telco companies here in Sydney, and he was doing business telecommunication services and basically selling business phones and things like that. And I said to him, I said, look, if you know any of the businesses that you see that they might need help with their IT and online stuff, let me know. So he did, and he managed to give me a whole bunch of customers. And from there, I just developed my brand, and after a while I decided to work for Telstra, which is a large telco company here in Australia, for a couple of years, and then I quit, I left, came back. I'm like, I need to focus on my brand, focus on my agency, build it up. I was just me when I left. I said, gave myself 6 months. I said, in 6 months, I need to be able to replace my income that I'm earning from this company. And if I can't do that, then I need to end this project. And it's just a project, a side project. Took me about 3 months, 3.5 months. I actually managed to replace my income. Like, okay, we're going to work with this. 3 months after that, I hired a designer. About a month and a half or so after, I hired a developer. And then a couple of months later, I had a videographer, photographer, and then hired another developer. And I just grew the team. That is, I'm talking now 2012. So then grew the team, went up to about 8, 9, 10 people almost, and depending on, some were contractors, some part-time, some full-time contractors. And then last year I decided, because of some personal stuff that that I was going through and dealing with and sorting out in my life, I'm like, okay, what is it that I really want to do? I looked at my business, I'm like, what I want to do is this part, and that part is the content marketing, the digital, the consulting, the branding, the social media. That is what I'm passionate about. That's the part I enjoy. What I don't really enjoy personally is the technical side of stuff. Well, split the business into two, prepare the left that I don't want to do, sell that. Then I went on a bit of a hunt to find the right buyer. So about 3 months ago, I found the right buyer. So I sold that. Now, that is pretty much my story in a very general terms, but I have been shot at, I have been bombed, I have been gassed, I've been in jail, I've been kicked the crap out of by Iranian military personnel. I've been been chased by the Iraqi army. I've been shot at by terrorists. I've dealt with suicide bombers. I've dealt with roadside bombs. I've dealt with anything you can pretty much that means go kill a person, kill them. I've kind of dealt with, but I'm still here. So what am I doing here with my life for the next 10 years? I have dealt with the racks as well, but I've survived the racks, and so here we are. I am writing a book. At the moment, I'm writing a book, and the title of the scope I put in there, Opportunity. My book that I'm writing is called Opportunity because I believe there are 3 things when it comes to opportunity. You are born with them. You are that you just can do anything because you're born with it. The second one is you are given opportunities, and if none of them are available to you, you go out there and you create your own. I am coming to Vegas, my friend. Yes, I will be in Vegas. And, you create your own opportunities. And at every stage of our lives, my family and stuff, and, I've had to create the opportunity. But the hardest part of my whole story was none of it before. The hardest part was going through university because of a number of reasons. I didn't have full control of the language, and on top of that, one of my friends died in a motor vehicle accident, when I was at university that devastated me. And then shortly after that, my grandfather got hit by a car. He had an accident. He was bedridden for a number of years, and then he died as well. Then one of my cousins committed suicide, all through university, and because I was doing army and university at the same time, so my university degree kind of stretched out over 5.5 years. But the worst thing that happened to me was when I lost my dad. He died overseas in a motor vehicle accident, and it was a freak accident, and that nearly killed me. That was probably the hardest thing out of everything, because it took me about 2.5 years to get over it, just sort of to accept it, not even get over it. I'm not over it. It burns you every single time you think about him. You know, so you kind of go through life to think to yourself, and there's been a number of do you think I've had a bad man? You should hear my dad's story, what happened to him and how he survived. He survived like literally bombing in his office under his desk behind the wall that he was sitting in. He survived attempted assassinations, attempted kidnapping, and being shot at, because he was a senior politician, and he survived everything. And years later, he dies of a motor vehicle accident, and you kind of just question everything, So you kind of go, what is going on here? There's a guy who's lived an incredible life, and and he grew up without mom, without dad. His grandfather sort of looked after him, and just what's happened is just incredible. And he was sort of my inspiration in life. Growing up as a teenager, I was very quiet, and I never talked to people, and I would just talk to him about everything. He knew all my secrets. He knew about everything about me, and so you suddenly don't have that person in your life. So then you kind of think about everything. You kind of question everything. You sort of become a bit disheartened by everything. I went into some sort of a massive downward spiral where, and no joke, I was living in this apartment block. I would be on the balcony contemplating whether I should jump or not. You get to that. That's how low life can get. But you have to realize, and a thought comes to your mind. The thought comes to your mind is, if my dad was alive, thank you. If my dad is alive, what will he say to me now? If I'm going through this, that's how we find the courage. Is just thinking about what advice he would give me. For months, and for probably about 2.5 years, I would, think with every decision I make, I would think to myself, how would he handle it, or what advice would he give me? And literally his voice would play in my head, and then I would do that. I'll be in London on the 2nd of August. So that's how I handled it. And it wasn't easy. And one day, my ex-wife, she said to me, my dad's voice. I would just sort of think about him and trying to deal with the situation, and what would he tell me? And in my mind, I could hear his voice telling me, that's what you need to do. So one day I'm sitting there, I was really depressed, and my ex-wife, she walks in and she goes, Hardy, you can sit here for the rest of your life and be sad and upset that you've lost your father, and I know you love them dearly, or you could appreciate the wonderful 25 years you've had together, because that is something most people don't get. At that point, and I realized, when she said to me, it's life is not about dwelling on the past, on the negatives of the bad. You have to look at the opportunities. Even though we're being bombed, even though we're being gassed, even though we're being shot at, even though we're in refugee camps, for jails, for whatever, for everything. Everything that we went through, we were always together. We were always in one room. We were always together. My dad was there, my mum was there, we were there as a family, and we became extremely close. So, and when I talk about the title, I want to write a book, it's about called Opportunity. It's about creating those opportunities. It's about recognizing the opportunities. It's about understanding what is around you and who's around you, and how those connections and those people around you you can actually relate to, or you can actually help each other and pull each other up when one person's down. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That no worries. But yeah, so at the moment, just so that you guys know, I'm traveling through Europe and America as of August, I'm a survivor. I will always survive. you know, you got, you know, it's just you don't have a choice. I'll be in London in August, and then Vegas, and followed by San Fran and LA, and then New York, and back to London, and then traveling through Europe for about 3.5 months all up. So I will be traveling. What I'm working at the moment, I'll be working over there to run a lot of training workshops and talks and seminars and network with people, meet people, you know, just share stories and have a drink and just enjoy. So when I'm in London, thank you. So when I'm in London, I'll be sort of connecting with pretty much everybody who is there, and you know, doing some digital work, doing some content marketing work, and you know, just for one drink, that that drink of yours, or the one you're talking about, one shot, just gets you pretty drunk. I mean, yeah, I can't remember what it was called. Absolutely. So I would love to catch up with everyone. If you guys want to catch up and sort of have a chat and, you know what I've been doing, my work and stuff, you can just go to my site, hardyazeez.com, and you'll find my blog. It is everything that's there just about content. It's about content marketing. It's about business, and that's my sort of life at the moment. But I appreciate my past. That is my story. That is my past. That's who I am. You know. So yeah, if you've got any questions, guys, thanks, Ricky. And you know, just ask. You know, well, I don't know how we're going with time. I think I've gone a little bit over time. My site is hardyazeez.com. So if you just go my name.com, you'll take me to my personal blog. So yeah, so let me know, guys. If you've got any questions, email me or just connect with me on Twitter or whatever, and I'll connect back and we can ask. And if you have any questions, happy to chat. But I'm sort of my phone. No, Azeez, HARDYAZEEZ.com. So if you slide across or pull up, you'll see the actual site is in the description of this post. Yep, that's it. Thanks, Ricky. So yeah, so you can go there, connect with me, and if you sort of want to keep up to date with my work or my travels and where I'm at, I'll be posting it on that site. I'll be running a number of workshops in all the cities that I'm going through in the States and in London as well. I'll be around for a while there. I'm happy to connect. You have a 1 million question scheme. You always have questions. Ask me. That's no problem. So yeah, guys, you know, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But like, you know, Ricky, if you're okay, I can spend another 5 minutes for questions. If not, you know, we've got I'll give 5 more minutes. If you guys got any specific questions, I'll answer. And after that, I have to respect everybody's time because I've definitely gone over time, guys. Which picture? The cat picture. Do whatever you want, but okay, thank you. So guys, 5 minutes. If you've got any questions, please ask. What do you regret? No regrets. I have absolutely no regrets in life because I think regrets are not something that you should waste your time on. You should learn from your experiences and don't regret it and move forward. Do you have all the time? No, thank you. No regrets is a way to go. That's right. So I don't believe in regrets. I believe you make decisions in life to the best of your ability when you make them. And if it doesn't work out, oh, well, there's a hindsight's a great thing. But yeah. What do you cherish the most today? My family, my extended family, my family sort of experiences I've had. I am Kurdish. I was born in north of Iraq. We call the area of Kurdistan. So people call us Iraqis. Yeah. How do you start all over again? You dig deep and you look at what you want and you look at your goals and your dreams and you make it happen. Because if you can imagine it, you can create it. That's how you start over. And I've started over more than once. And I'll tell you about starting over. I went through school. This is a short story. I went through school because I did I'll tell you guys. I went through school. How do you go through? You tell yourself when you go through tough days, you say, this thought, this moment is not about this idea. It is about being productive. It is about producing this because there's other people who depend on it other than myself. I will get that done first and I'll make time for that. I speak Kurdish, Persian, Arabic, and I'm still working on my English. Okay, so tell you about a little bit of my schooling. I went through year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4 in Iran and Persian. Then you did year 5, year 6, year 7 in Iraq in Kurdish and Arabic. Never did year 8, year 9, year 10, and I came to Australia and did year 11 and year 12 in English. But by the time I finished year 12, So I've done 4 languages in 3 countries, and I still managed 3 years of schooling. And then I had to know your goals, and then had to go to university and try and get a degree and sort of get yourself set up. So guys, honestly, everything in life isn't here. Out there will provide whatever you think. Okay, whatever you think is what you're going to get from out there. Okay. Which language? English. English was the most difficult one. If I had the opportunity to go back in time, travel through time, and punch Shakespeare in the face for it, I would do that, because I don't know why he just made English very difficult. So yeah, English was definitely the most challenging one to learn, because I was a bit older as well. But the thing is, the more languages you learn, the easier it becomes to learn new ones as well. Try finish. No, that's finished. I'm done. I'm finished with that. So yeah, we've got 2 minutes, guys. We've got 2 more minutes, and I'll end the scope. Come on, Kim. You said you had hundreds of questions. You can't just keep it to yourself. Future goals. Future goals is, somebody mentioned TED. I will be doing a TED talk. I have a friend of mine here in Sydney. She's been pushing me for years to do it. So yeah, but I'm writing a couple of books. It all starts. That's right. Thank you. Thanks for the love. My favorite drink, man, people with good conversations. That's my favorite drink. Thank you, Neil. But yeah, so what was my future goals? Finish the book, the one that I'm writing about opportunity. I am also finished working on a couple other books. One is a content marketing one. The other one is I'm just going to write, man. I'm just going to write. Movies, man, I love a lot of movies. I just don't know which one. Sometimes I don't watch movies, and not enough of it anyway. I'll be in the States, called Hollywood, possibly. So what was I talking about? States, I'll be in Vegas, and I'll be staying in Vegas until, so in Vegas and America, I'll be in New York. I think I'll be heading back towards the end of September. So, sorry, I missed one of the comments. I work in Hollywood. Oh, awesome, awesome. Under 4 weeks away for you. Yes, about 3 weeks, and then after that, I'll be in London, and then in the States with the rest of the group, joining up in UK with them. Yeah, awesome. Please make a movie. Thank you. Thanks, Ricky. Yes, I'll see you in Vegas. All right. Okay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'll be in America for a bit, and traveling around, networking, and connecting with a lot of people. Trying for Vegas. Yes, I'll definitely see you in New York. Peace out. Thank you very much. My pleasure. I do. I have a pretty good knowledge of web scripting languages, but they're not communication languages as everyday stuff, so we do not want to count them, otherwise there'll be quite a few. But I don't speak them very well. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Peripreneurs family. I really appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to meeting you all and connecting with you. And have a wonderful week. For you, most of you, it's a Sunday. Over here, it's a Monday morning. I'm going to get ready for work now. It is almost 8 a.m. All right. Cheers, guys. Take care. Bye.